Well, if you said yes to both of those things, and there's a good chance you're probably a little tired of our local Cleveland Brown sports media. Same old thing, day after day, night after night. It's time to hang the cleats up. It's time to pass the torch. If you're looking for something fun, something fresh, something where four people literally smack themselves in the face over and over with hot take after hot take, then my boys at Down with the Browns is where you want to be. It's just good for your soul. Available on Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Twitter. Getting down with the Browns.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to another episode of Down with the Browns.
Great to be
Guys,
here.
how are you? How are you feeling? How are we feeling on this Wednesday evening after losing to Pittsburgh on Monday Night Football?
Yeah, no comment.
I hate the fact that I have to wear this stuff.
Not to quote James from TikTok, but what happened?
What happened is correct. Listen, we have a tough task, and that task is to try to go over the monstrosity and then also highlighting some good things.
Because there were some good things. There were some good things.
There were some good things.
It just wasn't on the offensive side of the ball, but there were some good things.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But at least we'll try our best to lift everyone's spirits with a wonderful, wonderful segment. Obviously, I'm not Christian. KFC down too many energy drinks after the loss. So he is currently, just somewhere trying to pump his stomach. So I will be hosting. So with that being said, we're here with Zach Creates from Twitter and Mac the Buffalo from Twitter. And, we're going to have some good times. You're a lovely host. But first and foremost, we're going to get started. We're going to get started with the Angry Buffalo Hour.
Nothing's worse than walking home a mile from the bar after a Browns loss. This is Mac with the Angry Buffalo Hour. 3 years, 3 different QBs, same result. Jim Schwartz has to be livid because his defense only allowed 13 points and 250 total yards, yet still lost. We should have seen this coming from the very start, the second the offense lined it up in an empty set with 3 tight ends instead of wide receivers. Stefanski does have an Ivy League degree, though, so Harrison Bryant must be better than Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Marquise Goodwin, and Cedric Tillman, which is why he got the game's very first target. I don't know why everyone's so surprised the passing game is once again at the bottom 10 in the NFL, considering that's how it's been since the Crimson Chin got here. Since 2020, his passing attack has been so pedestrian, Stefanski consults a crossing guard before sending his players out on the field. It's sad, though, as the GM, Andrew Berry, did his job. He upgraded the wide receiving core through 3 first-round picks plus $230 million guaranteed to get the best QB this franchise has ever seen. Well, until he put on the Cleveland Browns uniform. Pretty crazy Bill O'Brien made it work with Watson, yet Stefanski turned 4 into 2021 Baker Mayfield without the shoulder harness. So what is it then? Maybe Russ won't fully shake off until the 9th game back. Maybe Watson lost all his talent in a Space Jam-esque way. Or maybe the coach's play calling doesn't work. Funny, 4 years later, and the same critiques are still there. Abandoning the run, play calls pulled straight out of the NCAA video game, and not being able to beat a team with a good pass rush, even if his job depended on it. Wild to mention that, because the seat couldn't get any hotter if Marilyn Monroe sat down and started singing Happy Birthday. Stefanski has 2 weeks until the bye to figure this out, and with the injury to Chubb, the offense became even more handicapped. I would suggest he really thinks about Sunday and comes up with the smartest offensive game plan he can, but the last time he did that, it ended up with 4 turnovers and 2 defensive touchdowns. This is Mac with the Angry Buffalo Hour.
The Kevin Stefanski slander is apparent.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. Let's listen. While we're on the subject of Kevin Stefanski and play calling and this awful offense.
Well, so can we just address one thing?
Yeah.
And I do want to say this, and I'm not just saying this because he's my favorite player. I'm not just saying this just because I've built a little bit of a brand behind run the damn ball and,
Yeah.
being a Nick Chubb enthusiast.
Yeah.
But I do want to send my deepest condolences out to Nick Chubb. I do want to send as many prayers out to Nick Chubb as possible, because this man, he dislocated his knee, and it's the same knee that he did in college. So it's not a matter of, when he can come back. It's a matter of if he can come back.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody can do this, it would be Nick Chubb.
Yes.
But the road from here is extremely tough. Nick is a superhuman, but everybody has their kryptonite, and it just seems like it. I have never been in a situation watching a Browns game where all of the air was sucked out of the room. I'm talking about not even with this stings worse than the original Baker Mayfield injury against the Texans. This stings more than the bad play call in the playoffs. This is easily one of the worst things that I have ever seen as a Cleveland sports fan. So I do just want to say that we here at Down with the Browns, we wish the best for Nick. And I really hope that I can see this man out on the field. Now, if it doesn't work out with him in Cleveland, I would be terribly sad. But I do want to see this man make a comeback, because nobody deserves it more. And, we can get into the dirty hit. I'd rather not.
Yeah.
Because, go ahead, just Google it on Twitter, and you'll just see how atrocious and unnecessary that helmet hit was by Minkah Fitzpatrick. But I just don't want to get into it, because my concern here is Nick Chubb and whether or not that he will be okay next season. But for now, he's spending the rest of the year on the IR. So well wishes and best of luck to Nick Chubb.
100%. And we just echo everything you're saying, Mac, because we all know how big of a part of this team Nick Chubb is. I mean, he's one of those silent guys. He's a very old-fashioned, football player. A lot of people love him. A lot of the older generations love him because he's, kind of blue collar. Thank you so much to Sir Marine. Hashtag pray for Nick. 100%. He's definitely kind of, just bring the lunch pail to work and get, clock in and get what you have to get done. So we love that about him. He just was so consistent as well. And I think that's another shock to us as Browns fans, is because we've had Nick Chubb for a while, and he really hasn't had any injury problems since he's been here. Right. I mean, he had the horrific injury in college, but I think he was out one game with COVID, I'm pretty sure. And then he had like a hamstring for 2 games.
Yeah, he had that knee sprain where he was out for 3 or 4 games, but he still ended up with 1,000-yard season.
Exactly.
He was very productive in 20.
Exactly. You can't put Nick Chubb in that category with other running backs in the league who are injury prone and haven't been who haven't been on the field very much. And MC says it correct. That's correct, MC. Like, he's not just loved in Cleveland; he's loved throughout the NFL. I mean, everybody loves Nick Chubb, right? I mean, all the Steelers fans in that stadium. They were applauding it because they also saw the injury too, and they know what Nick Chubb means to this football team. And once again, we don't want to really get into the kind of question of if it was dirty or not, because it's not gonna change anything, right? I mean, they're not gonna go back and give us the win. If they're it's not gonna heal Chubb. It's just our way to get our anger out and say that was a really, really dirty hit. And so, like, honestly, the best thing we can do for this football team is to win. I mean, that's exactly what he would want. And that's not just something that we're saying just to sugarcoat it. It's something that's really true. We want, he would want us to win, and we want to win. So Zach, do you have anything to say about it?
Yeah. I mean, I just echo all of that. I mean, I don't even really know what to say about it. I mean, I'm not a Mac level of Nick Chubb fandom, obviously. I mean, I love Nick Chubb, and I understand how special he is and to this team, and I agree. Like, this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. But just like a lot of these players always say, is next man up. And I saw a lot of people saying season's over and it's all done. And as a leader like Deshaun Watson is supposed to be, you got to galvanize your guys after something like that. And I know it's hard, and I know that it's just probably one of the most sickening things to watch, especially a guy who leads by example and doesn't speak an awful lot like some other players, Jamar Chase. But, if I don't know where you go in the direction of running back. I mean, I like the addition of Kareem Hunt just because he knows the system, but is he really not the dude anymore? I know last year he was pretty banged up, all year. So do we know if he's got that step to him? We don't, it's to be seen. I mean, teams didn't hire him, so I mean, like, it's kind of like it's a question. And then, do we trust Jerome Ford? I mean, there's just all these questions that this poses that I don't want to ask, because usually every season since Baker and Chubb were drafted, we've all sat there and had one consistent, is we knew Nick Chubb was going to show up to work and he was going to get it done. And if we couldn't throw the ball, we ride Nick Chubb. And I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but what I'd like to happen is Deshaun Watson and those leaders in that locker room need to step up, make your $235 guaranteed $1 million, and play winning football, because trust me, we turned on Baker fast. We will turn on Deshaun Watson just as fast, maybe even faster with all that money. So it's time to put up or shut up. It's simple as that.
100%. 100. I couldn't have said it any better myself, honestly. And so I think MC said a great point. Never going to replace Chubb, but we're glad that we got Hunt back. I completely agree. Like that's one sort of bright spot in all of this is he should have been. I think Hunt should have been on the team anyway. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I understand they have to give Jerome Ford some play eventually, but I just was not. I said it over spaces and tweets, and I feel like I've said it over the show a couple of times. It's just like, no offense to Jerome Ford, but I said, God forbid Nick Chubb goes down. God forbid Nick Chubb goes down. I mean, I'm not confident with Jerome Ford. I'm not. He showed a nice little flash, right, after Nick Chubb went out, and then Jerome got a couple of carries. Dearness Johnson showed a couple of flashes last year on Thursday Night Football. Now, was those flashes due to no one having film on them whatsoever, so you don't know what to expect at all? I mean, or was it because we have a good offense? You never know. You never know. So that's why I wasn't so. I don't know. I just knew we needed someone else on this in this running back room to help out. With that being said, I mean, obviously we can go over some key points, and then we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. The Cleveland Browns did lose and fall to the Pittsburgh Steelers week 2, 26-22. If you're a fantasy owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, congratulations. I mean, you got yourself a lot of points for whatever league you're in. But again, I mean, a lot of that was the offense gifting them 2 touchdowns on defense, interception to Alex Highsmith and a strip sack by Alex Highsmith once again, and TJ Watt taking it to the house. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Mac, I know you have a lot to say. We can definitely start with you. What are some of the things that you were looking at here on the offensive side of the ball? What are your first kind of thoughts?
So I don't want to sugarcoat this, but it really does feel like Kevin Stefanski put the offense in the hardest position possible to gain yards and win this game. Now not running the ball against the league's worst run defense, the first play of the game, is one thing. But Andrew Berry threw money, draft picks, to upgrade this wide receiver room, and you go empty with 3 tight ends, Coop and Chubb. That's tough. Now, because of a slightly off-target throw, it resulted in 7 points immediately right after the game. So how do they respond next drive? They call an immediate timeout after the 3rd play of the game because they can't get lined up correctly and they don't know what they're doing. Then on 4th and 1, a little bit later in the game, you have 8 people in the box on 4th and 1, and you want to run a speed option to the field. You want to run horizontally against this Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which their strength is their secondary and their outside linebackers. I mean, right now, not to discredit Alex Highsmith, but I said that was the matchup to look for, this week. And what did we do? We just put Jed out on an island, and we just thought that he would magically turn into a player that gives effort and doesn't immediately leave his pass set. And what happened? He turned around like a guy trying to make a Yui on a highway. It's sad. I mean, watch this play. Watch this play. He doesn't even get back in his stance. He immediately turns and runs as if he's a DB covering a wide receiver. I mean, that's an absolute embarrassment for a left tackle, and it's especially an embarrassment because this guy is a first-round draft pick, a guy that we picked up his fifth-year option. So, not to be, Captain Obvious, but he doesn't deserve that fifth year, straight up. And it's not me sugarcoating it, because you are what you put out on tape, and Jed Wills has put out that he is not a starter in this NFL. So you go down, and I mean, there's so many question marks with this game plan. It's absolutely ridiculous. The third possession of the game, they get the ball on the opponent's 18-yard line, and they can't score. I mean, what? We have to be in the same league as the Arizona Cardinals, right? Because at the end of the day, most offenses, when they have the ball on the opponent's 18-yard line, they can at least score. They can at least stay in field goal position, but they didn't, and they ended up missing a field goal. So it's frustrating time and time again. And I mean, something's up with the personnel. Something's up with these formations. I mean, the fact that we're still trying to line up Harrison Bryant as a fullback, considering the fact that he's 6'5" and 220 pounds soaking wet, is an absolute, like, if that's what you want to do, and you want, like, put Njoku back there, put Jordan Akins back there, hell, pull a fullback from the practice squad, because he's going to give you a better run and blocking ability. I mean, there's just so many question marks, and it's like I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I just have nothing but a plethora of notes of just questionable stuff. And I mean, you look at the wide receiving core. Guys like Marquise Goodwin and Donovan Peoples-Jones have 4 targets 2 games into the season. You want to run an air raid offense, and
you're
two of your top 4 weapons, 2 guys, one guy that has shown you the past 2 years that he can get the ball downfield, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, he's shown you that on tape. He's shown you that on the stat sheet. You don't want to get him the ball. You get Marquise Goodwin, who has speed that we have not seen, and he can also catch the ball, but for some reason we just don't want to get the ball to him. So it's there. To me, it just seems like Kevin Stefanski set up this offense for failure. You can't sit there and blame execution, because the best players, number one, weren't given the ball, and number two, it's just absolutely baffling what I saw on offense. I'm without a doubt, there are 27, 28 offensive play callers in the NFL that would have won that game on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's a strong statement, but there's some truth to it. There's some truth to it, because you have to be able to adjust. To be completely honest with you, Zach, I'm gonna let you go. I have some thoughts on it as well, but I'll let you go first. How do you explain this type of performance offensively to a Cleveland Browns fan?
Well, I'd just be like, hey, look at the past, 20 some years, and that's what happened is, everybody thought we were going to go in and do what we were supposed to do, and we got, we basically didn't put up what we were supposed to put up. But
yeah.
I don't know. I am like a loss of words, because it's unbelievable to me. But so I did some number crunching, and not really anything too crazy, but our offense is $111 million in cap dollars right now. Okay. And out of that 111 million, 13% of it is your offensive line, which is a super high. I mean, to have an offensive line at 13%, that's $33.7 million in money. between Joel Bitonio, between Conklin, Wyatt Teller, and yes, Jed Wills, shockingly. But if you're going to sit there knowing the game plan of the Steelers, the Steelers go through this, and we do this every single year. And this might be an indictment on Kevin Stefanski. I'm not one that's like, what, this guy is just garbage, but maybe he doesn't think about this at all. But every year since he's been head coach in the regular season, whether the Steelers are great on offense or not, we go in and defensively they play a bare front. And every single time, our offensive line gets absolutely ran through. So either he's literally insane and doing the same thing, expecting a different result, or he's not going to add an extra blocker to throw guys that are actually big bodies that can block Highsmith and, Hayward wasn't there, but Cam Hayward. I mean, TJ Watt, to sit there and be like, hey, let's not let them get to our quarterback. I don't know if you guys saw the Niners game, and yeah, maybe that was a fluke of some sort, but the Niners versus Steelers, they toyed with them. TJ Watt, yes, he had his sacks, but they were able to move the ball like it was nothing. And the fact that you have a guy, and this is no slander to Brock Purdy, but a last pick in the draft outperform your $235 million quarterback is, to me, the indictment on something that's going on in here. Now, yes, obviously, maybe we're a little unfair with Deshaun in certain points. I get it. You're coming back after 2 years of not playing football. It was rusty last year. Now you're, really, really opening up the offense, whatever. But when you go play as a Brown in Schittsburg, you better come out with a W or at least a pretty damn good performance.
Mm-hmm.
And what that was just an amalgamation of a huge disaster. I mean, the greatest example of this is the end of the game. I mean, everybody's going to sit there and call for people's heads. They're like, oh, he was held. He was this. Yeah, DPJ was held. We know that. That's not a, crazy thing. But when he's held and the ball's 50 feet above his head and not even catchable, I mean, give your guy a shot at the ball, because if he's getting held, he's going to get the penalty call. Then you're up at the spot foul, and then you have a shot at winning the game. Instead, you make a rushed throw. You throw the ball 20 feet above his head, and now we're walking home trying to figure out what the hell happened. If you're missing guys like Elijah Moore, and I get it, he was pressured like crazy, and I don't blame him for that. But when you're missing wide open levels concepts, just basic, quarterback stuff to where you can see cover three. I mean, the Steelers played a cover three shell pretty much the whole game. I mean, they were saying, Deshaun, beat us. Beat us.
That was their game plan for sure.
And and you got to tip your hat to Pittsburgh. They just said, you know what? Fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Keep throwing the ball because you clearly can't hit our guys. You don't, you're not comfortable in the pocket. You're scrambling out before the concept's done. I mean, I get it. I do think Jed Wills is a big part of that. And I do think him not trusting his blind side, I think is a big issue that going forward that you need to fix or figure out. But he also needs to, when he's in rhythm, you can tell. There was a couple throws, when he was throwing, there was a couple passes to Amari Cooper where I was just like, that's in rhythm.
It's amazing.
That Elijah Moore pass where he was out of bounds, he dropped that right in a basket. I mean, these are serious. He has that stuff, but you need to be in rhythm. Kind of echoing what Mac was saying is hand the ball off first play. What are we doing? Throwing a little out, flat play to Harrison Bryant. What are you doing? Get a rhythm going, gain a first down, and then open it up. Like, these are supposed to be scripted. Stop getting cute. We're playing AFC North football. Run it down their throats and take your shots.
Well, and like I 100% echo that, Zach. And like I'm not trying to be the old head that's saying run the ball, but crazy stat that not a lot of people are talking about. The Browns had 198 rushing yards in that game.
Gosh.
Okay, a few more handoffs wouldn't have hurt you, because
Right.
what was detrimental to this team? I mean, if we limited the first throw of the game and we would have just handed it off on the third down, we would have won that game. Trust your defense. You have the second best defense in the NFL right now, and Jim Schwartz is giving you everything that he has. And the Browns have not had a defense like this ever in the history of their existence. Okay, and it's mind-boggling to me, because we're talking about an offense. Before the season started, we're like, okay, we want to open the playbook up, right? We want to run an air raid offense. We want to feature multiple targets. Well, right now it's Amari Cooper, David Njoku, and then everyone else. Because right now, so Coop and Njoku combined for, this is the past 2 weeks, 24 targets that resulted in 16 catches, 199 yards, 10 first downs. The rest of the team, 45 targets, 22 catches, 190 yards, 11 first downs. I mean, the three worst catching percentages on this team are Elijah Moore with 37%, DPJ with 33%, and Marquise Goodwin with 0%. So it's an issue of getting the ball to your playmakers, because as good as Amari Cooper was and as consistent as David Njoku was, you need to be able to spread the ball out. And they still yet to be able to get the ball downfield to Marquise Goodwin. And I don't know whether Stefanski just gave up trying to draw it up or what. But at the end of the day, it's just crazy. And it's not even like, you're just saying that 2020 hindsight. But in all reality, if they would have handed the ball off on the very first play of the game, and if they would have handed the ball off on that last third down, the Browns would have won this game, because that defense was not losing. I mean, you want to talk about, and like it's just mind-boggling to me, because the defense gave up two big plays, right? A 71-yard touchdown to George Pickens, and then a 30-yard touchdown on a miscommunication to Jalen, 30-yard gain to Jalen Warren, right? Outside of that, okay, they had 99 passing yards and 55 rushing yards.
Yeah.
Outside of two plays. The defense would have won you that game if you would have trusted him. And if I'm Jim Schwartz, and I understand that he's the new guy in town, right? He's just a defensive coordinator, but I'd be livid if I gave you the game and I gave you the keys to the Lambeau and you crashed it before even getting out of the driveway. I mean, it's an absolute embarrassment, because Kevin Stefanski is supposed to be this offensive guy, right? And you got too cute, you got too smart, and you ended up looking like an absolute buffoon on Monday Night Football. And that's not opinion, that's just fact.
It's just a fact. The thing that stresses me out the most is the fact, you just said it already, Mac, right? You could have ran the ball in the second half and won. Walked right out of Pittsburgh with a win. And I try to tell people this on wherever I can, right? You could have taken a knee every single play in the fourth quarter and still would have won, because it's the fact that the Steelers aren't good. I'm just going to say this. So far, what I'm seeing right now this season, the Steelers are not a good football team. Okay, I'm not saying they're a horrible football team, but they're not a good football team. That defense, it might look really nice and sexy onto the media, right, on your fantasy team. That's what I was talking about, fantasy, because your fantasy points are really nice. We handed them a W. We spoon-fed them. And they're like, oh, well, good teams take advantage of that. Well, all you got to do is stick your hand out there if you're Alex Highsmith. 99% of the NFL games, if you're throwing that flat route off to Harrison Bryant and it tips off six individuals' body parts, it hits the ground. The fact that Alex Highsmith scooped and scored, congratulations, Alex. Congratulations. And then the other play, we already see it right now. 100%. I mean, I could go out there in Birkenstocks and walk right by Jed. I mean, my goodness. And Alex Highsmith got Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, Defensive Player of the Week for that in the AFC. I mean, I could go out there and walk in a bathrobe past Jed. And so I'm just saying, when I'm talking to you about the difference between what the 49ers did versus the Steelers, now that's a very good defense. What we did against Pittsburgh, where they didn't have any plays in the red zone, that's a really good defense. The Pittsburgh Steelers just took advantage of what we gave them. And it's not like they took it out by force, right? It's not like TJ Watt did a crazy swim move, and Alex Highsmith went through the offensive line. That's all I'm trying to say is the slight good news, right? And we really beat ourselves. We should have won 22-12, right? Absolutely. But instead we lost because we had two defensive touchdown turnovers. So if there's any silver lining here, it's the fact that we can look back on this game and say, man, oh man, you know what I mean? Like, and those turnovers weren't even like Deshaun didn't see coverage and just threw the ball right into somebody, like a rookie mistake. This was like a bobbled, like 4 people bobbled it. You know what I mean? So it's like the media can say Deshaun turned it over twice or whatever. You know what I mean? Fine, but you got to look at it objectively as a Browns fan. And I'm sure other defensive coordinators are going to look at this game and say, okay, well, it's not Deshaun making those mistakes. It's kind of like, hey, we would like a lucky bounce like that. We would like Jed miscounting the snap, not knowing and just not getting off the ball. So look, I try to take a deep breath, and that's the attitude that I'm having right now. But there is a bright spot in this game. The bright spot in this game, and we need to really talk about it because sometimes it gets, in an offense-driven league, and sometimes defense gets hidden in the folds and no one cares about defense anymore. Can we please, the defensive side of the ball, Jim Schwartz is doing a fantastic job. Guys, we have the Cleveland Browns have a top 5 defense in the NFL. Top 3.
It's
unprecedented.
It is fun to watch them, but I can't say the same thing for, rest of the people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's one of those things where I think as, we progress through the year, I tweeted this, and it might be I know it is week 2, and some people, I get it. Like, some people do have
overreactions.
Yeah, sure. I would say mine is gross overreaction, but yeah, overreaction for sure. But this felt like, I don't know how to explain this, but this felt like one of those games where this team this early on has to look inside themselves and be like, what are you guys? Are we the Browns as the Browns, or the Browns are the Browns, same old Brown? Like, what are we? Because let's be honest here. I love Juan Thornhill and I love his positivity.
Yeah.
But this isn't Kansas City, dude. We've been down in the dumps for, the better part of 2 decades. So figure it out. We need to figure out what we want to be. It's as simple as that. I can't stand this, this attitude. I saw it, I don't know if you guys saw the Jed Wills interview where he was talking about how I think it was a missed snap count or something like that or whatever. The way he's talking looks like he doesn't give a shit. And I don't know if that's him. That's just his personality. I don't know him very well enough. But I have never seen somebody have that big of a just watching that video when you play it drives me nuts. The guy is totally facing the wrong way. I mean,
Yeah,
I could
yeah.
go in there and do it, and I don't even like. I've never played offensive line. I could figure out, hey, I should probably stay square with this guy so he doesn't hit my quarterback, or
Yeah.
put him to the sideline, or put him, back to the the end zone behind me. I'm not going to sit here and let him hit me. But like, I mean, look at this. Are you kidding me? Like, I get it. Deshaun shouldn't have fumbled that football. He's not look at Deshaun's eyes. He's looking left because he's throwing a little, he's probably throwing this little quick slant right here. And she's like, all right, Jed, you got my weak side. Like, you got my blind side. Like, don't worry about it, man. Like, we got this. And balls out. Like, that right there took the wind out of the whole team.
It did.
That
It really
right
did.
there was the when was the last time an offensive lineman has lost us a football game?
I don't even know. And we've lost in many different kinds of ways.
Yeah.
We've lost in many different I just want to say one quick thing, Zach, because you touched on something that just jogged my memory. You know when Cade York started like not completing some kicks and his interviews were different? Like he knew, it's almost like he knew that like Browns fans were low-key bagging on him heavily.
Yeah.
Right. And
absolutely.
then when we kind of cut him and then he signed with the Titans, which by the way, I just realized that we're going to be seeing Cade York this Sunday. But and he signed with the Titans, and then he had an opportunity to sign back with us, but he's like, no, I want something new, and just went to Tennessee. It's almost like Jed is almost acting as if I feel like Jed knows we as a fan base have a generally negative outlook when it comes to him.
Well, I hope he does.
I think he knows that. And it's almost like, it's not that I don't care. It's almost like, bro, like, I know you guys hate me. Like, if you gave me one ticket out of here, I would literally just leave. You know what I mean? Like he would be almost happy if he were traded. So it's like, he's happy he got his money, the extension. I mean, he's not going to be upset about that. But it's like, bro, like, I almost know every single time I do something wrong, you guys, like, are going to bag me for it. Right. And very rarely as an offensive lineman do you get praised. So on top of the fact that we all put DeJuan Jones on the throne and he knows that, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so insane to me. Summer is hilarious. My toddler can block better than Jed. Honestly, a lot of people probably could on that one play.
You can line up anybody at left tackle and they can give you that exact same effort.
Yeah.
Now something kind of hit me here, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this. But is it me, or since 2020 we have guys where their attitude is questionable on offense? You have the pissing match with Baker Mayfield. You have the whole conundrum with Odell Beckham.
Right.
Even Kareem Hunt had that holdout in camp last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, on the low. We forget about that.
Now you have Jed Wills and this I don't give a shit attitude. So it's like, what is going on Kevin Stefanski's side of the ball? Because this is what we hired him for, right?
Yeah.
This is the offensive mind. He was the person, okay, this wasn't Jim Schwartz sitting in the meeting with Deshaun Watson. This wasn't Bubba Ventrone. It wasn't Joe Woods when he was here. It wasn't Jimmy Haslam. Who was the guy talking about RPOs with Deshaun Watson and breaking down the playbook on what they were going to run on a Sunday sometime down the line? That was Kevin Stefanski. This is Kevin Stefanski's offense. And so far, what have we gotten from Kevin Stefanski's offense outside of a stretch of games in 2020? Well, I hate to tell you, but like COVID, 2020 was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's gone. It's not here anymore. It's not our present. It is our past. So what the hell is going to be our future? And you can go ahead and look at the stats. Kevin Stefanski has had a bottom 10 passing attack since he's been here. And it's been 3 different quarterbacks now. We have moved pieces around in the wide receiver room. We've kept a pretty consistent offensive line. I mean, say what you want about Jed, but the other 4 guys up there, pretty damn good. Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get it. You're marching into Pittsburgh. And you're facing guys like TJ Watt, Alex Smith, or Alex Highsmith. And while they were down one of their best players, Cameron Hayward, they still brought the energy. They still brought that fire. They were still ready to go. And they wanted it more than the Browns offense. And again, they gave the game away. And Stefanski was brought here to be more organized, which clearly hasn't been, his MO, and to be more efficient. And last Monday was the least efficient offensive performance that I think that I've seen since Kevin Stefanski's been here. I mean, without Jim Schwartz, it would have been the stereotypical blowout that we've seen. The blowout in very first game of 2020 against Baltimore, the blowout in Pittsburgh in 2020, the blowout versus the Patriots in 2021. I mean, the only difference between then and now is just the fact that Jim Schwartz will put you in a position to win the ball game. And you know what's crazy? You know what's absolutely insane is that there was a point in the game where the Browns had 3 turnovers, where Deshaun Watson was playing one of the worst games that he has played in the National Football League, and the Browns were still in it.
Yep.
So right now, I'd like to talk about this defense because the only thing that I have to say for the offense is figure it out. Figure it the freak out, because that's what just needs to happen, or people are going to get fired. Because, look around the NFL, who goes first? Quarterback or the head coach? And it's the head coach every single time.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. That is completely true. And to answer your question, Summer, about who can take over play calling, I mean, probably AVP, but at the same time, we got to give it is an Alex Van Pelt, but it could turn around. I truly believe that it can turn around. It is week 2. And we're going up against a Tennessee Titans team who gives up the 5th most passing yards already this season. So, I mean, their secondary is not the greatest. So we'll see how that goes. But we do have to highlight, these defensive just juggernaut that we have. What Mac? What do you kind of think about this defense? I mean, we have not seen anything like this before. Have you seen anything like this before on this defense with the Cleveland Browns?
I absolutely haven't. Now we knew that Myles Garrett, Dalvin Tomlinson, Za'Darius Smith, and Ogbo Okoronkwo were going to show up this year. I mean, statistically, there's everything that I could bring to the table, and I have brought to the table to show you that, hey, like, their defensive line is going to be real next year. Now, I came out a couple months ago and I said that Grant Delpit is a damn good safety, and people still had some question marks about it. Well, don't have any more question marks, because for the second week in a row, he's put together a masterful performance. I mean, we're talking about an interception, a fumble recovery, and he led the team in tackles for the past 2 weeks. So this man has been all over the field. And like, it's just crazy because, I mean, again, outside of 2 plays, you had one coverage bust in zone, and then you had Jaylen Warren getting out of the backfield free. They did a lot of motions, and Sione Takitaki got caught up in the mess, and he ended up letting his guy free, and he went 30 yards downfield. But outside of those 2 plays, again, 99 passing yards and 55 rushing yards. I mean, this defense just – They just suffocate. If you want to use one word to describe this defense, it's suffocating. Because in the run game, in the pocket, in coverage, I mean, and like that's the crazy part about all this, is that Jim Schwartz's scheme isn't something masterful, right? Okay, he's not like Joe Woods that's got a mouthful of chew and the pencil in his ear, and he's drawing up stuff that you've never seen before, and don't quite understand. No, it's just man coverage and just letting the dogs go up front. Yeah. And Miles is
at the linebacker spot too.
Yeah. They just stick. Absolutely really stick like glue on these offensive players. And it's like, I mean, if we did not have those 2 offensive touchdowns and the Browns would have won this game, you know what the narrative would have been? Kenny Pickett was seeing ghosts. Because in all reality, that's what it was. I mean, you had, outside of those 2 passes, Kenny Pickett played terrible, awful, god-awful. And those 2 passes, they were pitch and catches, right? They were wide open and they were coverage busts. But even with the coverage bust, I mean, they still only gave up 255 total yards. And, off the top of my head, I can't think of the last time that happened. I can't think of the last time where that Browns defense gave up that least amount of yards, even when playing, a good game, because even the masterclass in 2020 against the Tennessee Titans, they still had that, second half performance. Even in that playoff game with the four turnovers, I mean, Big Ben still threw for 500 yards. The Browns have not had this kind of defense since coming back in '99. I mean, you might be able to compare it to, the late 80s with Clay Matthews Jr. and Michael Dean Perry, and all those guys. But past '99, this is just an amazing defense. And again, I mean, they are so physical. They're athletic. They're flying around the football, and they're making a name for themselves. And that's why it's so frustrating as a fan. Because the guys on defense they're showing up to work, they're doing their job, and they are making plays. And what's really cool as well, for as much as we got last year about these players fighting in the locker room and all these screaming matches and blaming each other in the conferences, it was this coverage, it was this guy that blew this. These guys are celebrating with each other on the field. I mean, Grant Delpit, when he had that interception, all 11 guys are running to the end zone to go celebrate with each other, which I just personally love, because celebrate with your teammates.
You should.
Those are your brothers that you're out there on the field with. And this defense has so much cohesion, has so much energy, and they got some swagger and some attitude to them. And like MC said, this defense is elite. So all the offense has to do is be average.
Which is insane. I know this is going to make so many people, Browns fans specifically, upset, is because we're talking about a $230 million guaranteed. We count his money all the time, which I hate that everybody does, but whatever. You got to do it. We could literally be like a Baltimore Ravens team where you have a average-ish quarterback, an average-ish offense, but this elite defense. I hate to say that because we paid that much money for Deshaun and we don't want to be that. But if we just get average quarterback play, we always said this, a little bit better than Baker, everybody just cohesive and just working together on the offense, score us a couple points. We give up the it's only been 2 games, but we're second in the league in points given up per game. Mm-hmm. We're at 14.5. 15 points a game.
Oh, it's the complete opposite of what it was last year. We were we were 28th last year, or 28th or 30th in overall defensive EPA, and then we were second in offense. And now this year we're second in defensive EPA and 28th in offense,
which is insane. Insane. I mean, my goodness, can you imagine? All we need to do is basically score 21 points and we win the game.
I know.
I know. Man, it is crazy. It is crazy.
We scored 22 on Monday.
We scored 22 on Monday. We would have won that game if it wasn't for the offensive, turnovers, right? We would have won it 22-12.
14 points.
14 points. If you score on defense, then the likelihood of you winning that game is very high. If you score twice, I mean, if you're scoring for your offense, I mean, at one point, I saw on Twitter, they were like, "Oh man, well, all the Pittsburgh Steelers should just do is just keep punting the ball because their defense is scoring them all the points.
Yeah,
keep giving the Browns more chances to, it's just insane.
Well, insane. If you told me last year that we could have a defense that only gives up 3.2 yards per carry, defending the run, I would give pretty much anything outside of my dog up for that kind of defense.
And if you can combine that with that first 6 weeks of the season last year where we were just astronomically, for some crazy reason, we were so efficient on offense. I mean, we by far are the best team. Just on paper, just statistically speaking, we would be the best team in the league. Because, we would be killing it. Obviously, the 49ers would be up there, too, because they're killing it on offense as well. But, it's we're doing whatever we want. We're doing whatever we want. Shout out to Jim Schwartz. Shout out to this defense. I do, while we have some time left at the end of the show here, we do have to talk about a person who is returning to the Cleveland Browns, signed a 1-year deal worth up to $4 million. And ladies and gentlemen, that name is Kareem Hunt. Welcome back, Kareem Hunt. Obviously, unfortunately, comes to the loss of Nick Chubb for the season, obviously. But, I mean, being able to get a veteran back in here who's been in this locker room already, who people love, and he was just here last year, right? I mean, he should have been on this team to begin with. But again, having Kareem Hunt here is just going to be such a huge push for the offense, I truly believe. And he's going to be running hard. I know a lot of people think that he's washed, but Mary Kay Cabot has released today in one of her tweets that he's down 22 pounds. He's extremely lean. He showed up ready to work.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he was fantastic in his workout today. Yeah, so that was per Mary Kay Cabot. So one of the reporters for ESPN, for Cleveland. Yeah, so he's down 22 pounds.
I didn't even know he had 22 pounds to lose.
Yeah, I know. He showed up ready to work. He was prepared to give it his all for any team, and it just so happens that he's coming right back to Cleveland where he can get a jump start. Look, everybody's saying that he's going to be the backup. I mean, Kevin Stefanski has reported that he's going to be the backup to Jerome Ford. That will not be for a long time, if you ask me. I think that Kareem Hunt will be the RB1 soon, but they just don't want to throw him into RB1 role just yet, especially against the Titans when they are a notoriously for this season bad passing defense. They're just going to throw the ball all over the place on Sunday.
Well, let's hope. I mean,
yeah,
I'm going to save my predictions until it happens because I don't like what happened last time, or should I say Monday?
Oh yeah. No, a whole lot.
I like in terms of Kareem Hunt. I didn't really. I mean, obviously, how somebody's listed on the depth chart, and who's RB1, RB2. That is significant, right? But what matters is who's on the field on third down, and it's going to be Kareem Hunt. Why?
Point.
Because he can catch the ball out of the backfield and he can pass block. Okay. We've talked a lot about, the pressure that Deshaun Watson was facing, against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Well, I hate to tell you, but Mike Vrabel's not dumb. Mike Vrabel has a very good defensive line on his team, and he's going to come after Deshaun Watson the same way that Pittsburgh came after him on Monday. And we got to have somebody that's able to block in the backfield, and Kareem Hunt can do that. If he provides us with catching out of the backfield, pass blocking on third down, and 1 to 2 of those angry runs a game, because not only does it show up on the stat sheet, but that does wonders for your offensive line. Because one thing that not everybody's talking about, it was mentioned a few times, but the energy that Kareem Hunt brings to this team. Because the team offensively was very different in 2021 before Kareem Hunt went down with his calf injury in terms of energy-wise. And, offensive linemen love a guy. And it's the reason why they love Nick Chubb, because he was a guy that could get yards after contact. And Kareem Hunt's not the most agile guy. He's not going to beat a lot of guys in a foot race, but he is tough to bring down. And when you have an angry runner like that, it shows up. I mean, Anthony Walker, a guy who's been a captain for the past 3 years on this defense, right, is talking about how much energy he said that it, and like, I don't have the exact quote, but it brought the energy back. Nick Chubb leaving, it kind of took the wind out of everybody's sails, but seeing a familiar face, a guy with high energy, a guy that wants to come to work, and a guy that just brings so much positivity and so much life back in the building, you just saw the big smile on his face. And how many smiles did we have? And I know this is stupid, right? Because we're talking about offensive players smiling, but the energy is very important. And to see the very positive reaction bringing Kareem Hunt back in. Now, this is before I even found out that he lost 20 pounds. I mean, that's pretty crazy, considering the fact that he looked relatively slow last year. So, you're down 20 pounds. Scientifically, you're able to run a little faster. So it's it's going to be really great to see. It's a nice familiar face. He knows the offense, and he's going to give you 110%. And the offense needs the Energizer Bunny, right? They need somebody to come in here and
electric
and just like bring everybody up, because once Nick Chubb went down, I mean, yeah, Deshaun tried his best to get the guys together, in Zach's words, to galvanize everybody, right? But it was hard. But Kareem Hunt makes that a little bit easier. And even if he is part of what he was 2019 to 2021. I still say that that's a win in my book, because Jerome Ford did show us some flashes, but he just can't be the guy that's taking 80% of the carries. And he's I'm not trying to crap on the guy, but he's also not very big. He's not a very good pass blocker, right?
No.
So Kareem brings something different to the table. He brings the energy. So I love this signing, and it's only $4 million.
Yeah.
I mean, that's practically a camp flyer, so I like the signing. To hear that he's down weight is even better. And I'm excited to see 27 again, because Pete Smith, writer for Sports Illustrated, said that it was fan service. Okay, so it was damn good fan service.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy that a lot of people love and a lot of people bring energy. I mean, he's a Cleveland boy. He loves playing in Cleveland.
He loves it.
And I mean, he shares the same hatred for Steelers as we do as a fan base. He knows how important that winning football is in Cleveland. So, to see him back is awesome. And nobody can replace Nick Chubb. But, to bring Kareem back, that's a pretty damn good answer.
100%. 100%. So as we wrap up the show here, we are going to preview the Tennessee Titans at the Cleveland Browns on Sunday. Obviously, you have DeAndre Hopkins, Ryan Tannehill. We don't have to say too much about Derrick Henry, because we all know who Derrick Henry is. They have a fantastic rushing game. Like we've alluded to before in the show, the Tennessee Titans, they are 4th in the league in rushing. Again, it's only 2 games in the season. They are 28th in passing. And it's going to be 71 and sunny in Cleveland for kickoff. So, what are some of the things you're looking for on offense? What are some of the things you're looking for on defense? I think I'm hoping for a breakout game. I'm calling for Deshaun Watson's most passing yards in a game in a Cleveland Browns uniform. I'm hoping that's the case. The Tennessee Titans secondary is not that good. With the defense giving him more opportunities to shine, he's going to be back at home at Cleveland Browns, stadium. So there is no reason, in my estimation, why you should be, not eclipsing 230 yards passing. So what are you guys' thoughts, knowing all this information? What are some of the things you're looking for in this game? Zach, I'll let you go first, and then Mac, go ahead.
Yeah, so, knowing that they're, I think, 28th in pass and 4th in rush, the 4th in rush is a little bit of an anomaly, because their first 2 weeks, they didn't really go up against the premier rushing offenses or guys that play a lot of 13 personnel, 23 personnel, whatever you want to call it. I think it's definitely going to be a different thing. From my understanding, after Kevin Stefanski gets reamed for the things that he does, he usually figures out, the next game he comes back and has a better game plan. Now, what I'm going to be looking for is really just to see Deshaun Watson and the offensive line kind of come together. It's going to be tough, because, you have Jeffrey Simmons and a couple of the other guys on their defensive line that does pose some issues. But they need to just let it rip. I mean, I want to see the seam routes with Marquise Goodwin and in the slot. I want to see some, some corner routes and some. I want to see them open this up, because this whole point of Deshaun Watson coming here was to open up the offense for him and kind of play 5 wide receivers, 5 or 4 wide receivers and a tight end, like having a lot of empty backfields and showing that air raid-ish type thing. Now, if that means that Stefanski kind of has to step aside and just let, Deshaun kind of dictate what's going on and have him a little bit, from my understanding, he controlled a lot of what he did in the Texans program, and
Right.
Bill O'Brien and a lot of those guys he was kind of the guy that if he got a play call, he'd call the play call, and he's at the line changing a lot of things, which is great. Something that we didn't have an awful lot of, but we just need to figure something out. That whatever that it is needs to be figured out by Sunday, or it's gonna. This is just gonna keep getting worse and worse and worse. So hopefully, I hope the Browns get a W, but I'm not gonna predict it because I'm a Browns fan, so it's just not gonna happen.
Smart. Honestly, smart. Matt, go ahead. What do you think?
So, on defense now, with before I even say anything, looking forward to the Browns defense here. I know that Jim Schwartz is going to show up, but they're going to be really keen on, stopping the big play downfield because you got Treylon Burks, who averaged 25 yards a catch last game. You had Moore, who caught a 49-yard deep ball. Right now, DeAndre Hopkins is listed questionable with an ankle. Now, that could be something. It could be nothing. You never know. But in terms of the passing attack, limit the big plays. And then, of course, make sure that Derrick Henry does not dictate the game. And you know what, MC, to your point, I wouldn't blame Browns fans if they booed this passing attack because it has been putrid. Now, with that being said, flipping on the offensive side of the ball, the guys that should lead in targets at the end of the game, it should be Amari Cooper, should be David Njoku, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Marquise Goodwin. 5 guys. Okay. I'm sorry, but I cannot see another target to Harrison Bryant. I love Cedric Tillman, but you need to get your star players the ball. And to Zach's point, I would really like to see some kind of connection with Marquise Goodwin. The Browns haven't had a deep threat, since Stefanski came here, and all of a sudden we just don't want to. I mean, we force-fed the ball to Odell Beckham. Why can't we force-feed the ball to Marquise Goodwin? And I mean, it's not like the offense is going to get any worse, right? But with that, also comes, not to sugarcoat anything, but the offensive line has a very tough job coming up, in terms of pass protection. Of course, you have Jeffrey Simmons, who has 9 pressures, 2 sacks on the year. But you also have edge rusher Arden Key, 9 pressures, 2 sacks. You have Harold Landry III, who was supposed to be their top guy. He has a sack on the year. And then you have Danico Autry, 8 pressures, 3 sacks. So they're going to come after Deshaun Watson. It's no secret. And Mike Vrabel is one of those coaches that he will not give you the game. This will not be easy.
Yeah.
Frankly, you could possibly argue that this will be a harder game than it was. Now, you're going to be at your home stadium, right? So you're not going to be seeing ugly towels that aren't in your team's color. You're not going to have people screaming at you.
But you don't want to be booed. You don't want to be booed.
But you don't want to be booed by this.
It is way too early.
It
is way too early.
You're facing a better offense, and you're facing a damn good pass rush. So, what I'm looking for, take your deep shots on offense and just keep the game plan simple. Because the more that you try to be intricate, Mike Vrabel's going to beat you. I mean, there's a reason why he won Super Bowls as a linebacker for Bill Belichick, because he's a smart guy. He understands defense. And Jim Schwartz was with him last year, right? So I'm sure that he's telling Kevin some secrets there on how they run their defense. And they did a little scouting. But Kevin can't get cute for the second game in a row, because Mike Vrabel will take advantage. I mean, he's not Zach Taylor.
Right.
He's a Mike Tomlin-esque coach. He's a smart
He's
guy.
a defensive minded. He's a defensive minded guy.
Yeah.
What I'm going to say is something that we alluded to. The Cleveland Browns better not lose this game. And more importantly, even if they win, we cannot have Deshaun Watson play bad. Like, he cannot have a bad game. It's going to be great weather. That is a poor passing defense over there in Tennessee. Amani Hooker, their safety is questionable. I mean, there's not really a running game for us at this very moment. We like Jerome Ford a lot, but they have a really good run defense over there in Tennessee. We have to win this game, and Deshaun has to play well. Because if he gets booed, if there's going to be some booing going on in the stadium, which there will be if he's playing bad, this is not a good look to start off. It's week 3, and you can't be getting booed week 3. I mean, it's just going to be downhill from there. So we have to win this game. We got to win this game. I'm not saying that it's a high priority must win, but we have to win this game and head into Baltimore. Baltimore's playing in Cleveland, so it's more so head into Baltimore week, right? With being 2-1, hopefully Baltimore, we get a little bit more film with them because you don't really know what you're seeing when they're beating the Bengals with the injured Joe Burrow and they beat Houston Texans week 1. You're not really sure what you're seeing. So hopefully we get more film with them week 3 and see and head into the bye week. Hopefully 3-1. We'll see how that goes. But once again, I mean, guys, there's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. I mean, I feel we still probably missed on some points out there, but I mean, just Cleveland, just get it together. Just get it together. Are there any final thoughts from you guys?
Cleveland,
30-second thoughts.
Do you guys want to do score predictions real quick?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, quite literally anything could happen.
No,
Matt, how about you start us off? Give us a little taste of what the score prediction is going to be. Give us a little taste.
Well, how it should end up. I think that it's probably going to be a low-scoring game. I'd probably say like 20-13 Browns, and that's how it should shake out. But like you said, I mean, who knows? We know one thing I do know is that Jim Schwartz and the boys are going to show up.
Yeah.
The defense is going to be fired up. The defense is going to draw energy from the crowd, and it's going to be loud. Okay?
Miles can't go another game without having a sack. Like, it's just
which he was getting a lot of pressure. He was winning a lot of his one-on-one battles, but that doesn't matter. I completely agree. You gotta get in the backfield, bro.
Gotta get home.
You gotta get home, man. We need pressure on Ryan Tannehill. We really do because week 1, Ryan Tannehill threw 3 picks, but last week versus San Diego, he was surgical, 20 for 24. He was surgical. We gotta get pressure on him. Zach, do you want to try for a score prediction now, or do you?
all I'm gonna say is that there's gonna be points. Don't know where it's gonna be. I can't predict anything because all I'll say is that if you win this game, going into Baltimore, or not going into Baltimore, but Baltimore coming here, is going to feel a little bit. You're going to have a little bit less pressure on you.
Right, the fans will be more excited.
You go in. You have Baltimore come in while we're 1-2, and then you have your bye week. And coming out of the bye week is the 49ers. You do not want to be in that position.
You do not.
Simple as that.
You do not want to have Baltimore. I won't be able to see Manny and Steelers gear. But here's the thing. You made a beautiful point, Zach. You cannot have Baltimore come to Cleveland and be 1-2, and your fans are ready to boo for anything, because that's just going to throw you off. There's nothing more pleasing to the ear as an opposing team if you hear the home crowd booing and you just kicked the ball off. That's all you did. So it's like, oh, bro, all right, cool. You're not going to be loud against us? All right, awesome. But if we beat Tennessee and if we beat them convincingly, like I think we will, then we're going to be very loud for Lamar. So my final score is going to be something that's very optimistic. I am going to say that this is the game. If there is any game that it comes together and it clicks, MC saying Browns 19, Titans 13. I'm going to say that the final score is going to be 28-10 Browns. And I think that it clicks. I think that the defense is going to stifle Derrick Henry once more and make Ryan Tannehill throw. And we know when Ryan Tannehill throws, just like in week 1, when he threw for 41 attempts, he had 3 picks, he gets disgruntled. Let Ryan Tannehill beat us. But we are going to have a field day. We are going to have a field day with their secondary. I truly believe that. I think Deshaun Watson blocking all of these social media people as we're recording this 40 minutes ago, it's going crazy on the airwaves. Make sure you guys aren't blocked by Deshaun because he is blocking everyone. He has searched his name and he's blocking everybody. So I think he's going back into it's me mode. He might make his account private again because he's just going back into just focusing, which you should.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
You should. It might be a good thing. You don't have to be, friendly to Deshaun yet until you really get some wins here in Cleveland. So, as always, guys, great show. Fantastic. Oh, Mac, you wanted to say something? Come on.
Yes. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Not yet.
Oh, yes, please.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Follow us. We screwed it up last week. Let's see if we can get it. Here we go, Brownies. Here we go. Good boy. All right, go Browns, guys.
Go Browns. Go Browns.